Let's call to order the Board of Franklin County Commissioners meeting for November 18th.
Commissioner Stottlemyre? Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Present.
Commissioner Howard?
Present.
Chair Waymire?
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson?
Present.
Commissioner Dunn?
Present.
All right, if you'd all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then our invocation today, I believe, will be led by Reverend Bruce Beatty. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of the
United States of America
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
under God,
under God,
in
indivisible,
liberty.
liberty and justice for all.
All right, Reverend, are you on?
I'm on. Can you hear?
Sure can. Go ahead.
All right. Let's just bow our hearts and our heads. Father, we give you praise for this day, and we thank you for this day that you have given us. We ask that you would set the order of the day, that the agenda, all the decisions that this commission will look at and talk about and discuss, they will just come together in agreement in what would be best for the citizens of this county. We thank you for their leadership during this difficult time. This pandemic is wreaking havoc across our nation. Our numbers in the county are up, our deaths are up. We would ask that you would be with those families that are suffering, those families that have lost loved ones. Our hearts and our prayers go out to them. I ask that you would be with our first responders, our emergency personnel, our health department, our doctors, the hospital, all these in the care of each and every one of us during this time. We would ask that you would help us to make wise decisions next week during this holiday, and help us each to be wise and use discernment in those gatherings that we will have with our family. Help us each to do our part. But at this moment, Lord, we would just ask that you would lead, guide, and direct these commissioners in the agenda and in the order that they have for this day. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Derek, is there any correspondence or organizational business?
No, sir.
All right. I don't believe our public comments on, Janet. Do you know?
I do not see her.
Okay. Bring us down to consent agenda, which today would include meeting minutes from our November 4th meeting, Canvas minutes from November 16th, tax change orders from 2019 in the amount of a positive $481.02, tax change orders for the county for the year of 2020 in the positive amount of $1,162.60, claim vouchers dated October 31 for $556,413.83, and claim vouchers from November 15th in the amount of $825,503.08. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Commissioner Dunn, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Before we do that, I think there's also about replenishing our stock of culvert pipe that was in that consent agenda.
Yep, there sure is. Also to approve, approve the soliciting bids to replenish our culvert stock. So with that included.
Commissioner Dunn, amend mine to include that in my motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second it.
All righty.
Commissioner Stottlemyre, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
I'll abstain from the Canvas minutes and vote yes on the rest.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. And Janet tells me the tax change orders from the two different years are because of the late filing. In case there's a question on that. Somebody got their filing into us late. So down to items of business, the first of which is a rezoning application. Larry, are you on?
I'm here, Mr. Chairman.
Good deal, go
Uh,
ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. This matter is a consideration to rezone approximately 15 acres from an A1 to to the RE residential estate zone. This property is located in the northern part of the county. The purpose for this is to allow for the granting of the 15 acres together with the existing residence to a family member. The Planning Commission considered this matter at a public hearing in September. The reason that it's a little late getting to you was a correction on the survey was required, and we needed that to have the proper legal description for your consideration and action. The Planning Commission has forwarded a recommendation to the County Commissioners to rezone this 15 acres. They did find it was consistent with our policies of our comprehensive plan as well as our zoning regulations and subdivision regulations, and staff does recommend that you accept their recommendation and adopt a resolution approving the rezoning of the 15 acres from the A1 to the RE residential zoning district. I have nothing further to add unless any of you have questions.
All right, I don't hear any, so, would anyone like to make a motion to approve rezoning application 2008-1777?
This is Don. I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Howard, second.
Commissioner Howard, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. All right, our second item of business is to consider declaring various items as surplus. David,
Good morning,
are you on?
Commissioners. Can you hear me? This is David.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, we have a number of items that several of the departments consider surplus. And in order to auction those items off, we need the commission to basically declare these items as surplus so that we can go through that process. The process is established by Resolution 05-29, which is part of the material in the cover sheet. And I'd be happy to answer any questions related to these items.
This is Commissioner Dunn, David. How are you planning on disposing of these?
Historically, the county has used an auction site called Purple Wave. We are considering using either that site or another site called Gavel Roads. They've been in contact with us a number of times over the last few years and seem to be a reputable company, but we will go through one of those companies to auction the items off.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I can't open this spreadsheet, or this cover sheet on this computer, so I'm gonna just take a stab at this one, but would anyone like to make a motion to declare the listed items as surplus and sell them?
Commissioner Howard, I'll make the motion.
Commissioner Dickinson, I'll second it.
Commissioner Dickinson, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Chair Waymeyer?
Yes. Our third item of business is to discuss and consider for approval amendment to Franklin County's CARES Act Direct Aid Spending Plan. Derek?
All right, thanks, Colt. As all of you know, we've been working through this process for several months. As I detailed on the cover sheet, back on August 12th, you approved of the county's direct aid spending plan, which is a requirement by the state of Kansas for use of these funds. We were back in front of you again on the 5th to talk about modifying that to make additional purchases, because we've just found that some of the stuff we thought was going to cost a certain amount, we've gotten for cheaper. We've also, as we've continued to learn more about this pandemic, some of the stuff we thought we might need, it turns out we didn't. And so today, what I am trying to do is get basically our final recommendations in front of you. I will tell you before I dive into this, these are not Franklin County tax dollars. If these were Franklin County tax dollars and we were simply dealing with the county's use of that money, then I would have this broken down to the cents, and I think all of you know that. This is going to be more of a broad overview, and the reason for that is we have, I believe, 10 different entities who are trying to use this money right now. You've got 4 school districts and Franklin County. Then you've got the city of Ottawa, the city of Wellsville, the city of Pomona, the city of Williamsburg, and the city of Princeton. And they're all spending it at different rates. They're corresponding with our consultant at different rates. The logistics of trying to break this down to the cent at this point in time are incredibly challenging. And even if we did, it would be different tomorrow. And so my intention is to tell you what we basically have left to spend, and then I'm going to run you through a list of projects that we are proposing, and we'll give you opportunities to ask questions as we run down through those. And so a conservative estimate of what we have left to spend is about $700,000. That number in actuality is probably going to end up ticking in at about $750,000. But we are still, we have items like testing supplies, for example. I mean, this is such a dynamic event that, our health department, we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to need in terms of testing, but I'm reluctant to slash that line yet, even though we're really towards the very end, because I just don't want to short us. And so, but where we're at today, I think we have $700,000. This includes about $250,000 of contingency funds. So you will recall when we originally brought our plan to you, we put that in there because we just had no idea what we were facing, and we wanted to make sure we had money that didn't have a specified purpose. Well, now that we're kind of in the 11th hour, I think we're ready to allocate that to something. And then another $150,000 is money that we had allocated for PPE. But it turns out our burn rates are nothing near what we thought they were going to be. When this all started, we feared we might be in a situation where we were providing PPE to the whole community, and that just hasn't came to fruition. The city of Ottawa has gotten its own PPE. A lot of our community partners have gotten PPE, and so by and large, we are just providing it to our own folks, and so our burn rates are so much lower. And so so between those two, that's 400 of the 700,000 right there. And so the other 300,000 we have allocated to certain projects, and I'll walk you through those. But basically, I can come up with about 600,000 of expenses, and that is before you would talk about doing some things to the radio towers. So let me just jump in to what we're looking at, and then you can ask questions. The first project that I think I want to bring before you is our phone system. We talked about this back on October 5th, but our phone system is getting near the end of its life. We can't really service it anymore. By upgrading it, we will be able to work remotely far more effectively. And we would also get, obviously all new hardware across the county, so new phones. So I think it would they would operate quicker. They would allow us, we could service them. That is an expense of $131,000. I have Dustin on the phone. Do you have any questions about that project or using funds for that purpose? Okay, I've got quite a list, so I'm going to keep moving, and I'm starting from most expensive and working my way down through. The next project are heart monitors for the ambulance service. Nick has found that, obviously we're transporting COVID patients. We have the opportunity to get heart monitors that help us better track oxygen levels, basically help our people do a better job and provide better service to the people that we serve. And 3 of those are about $100,000. But certainly it's can easily be tied to COVID. Do any of you have any questions or concerns about the heart monitors? Okay, the next project are the JDC cameras. I know we talked about these back on the 5th, and the decision was made at that point to hold off. As we've gotten further through this, and I've given it more thought, I now think that we ought to do this. And talking with Ken and Dustin, our cameras over there are at the end of their life. They cannot be serviced at all, and once they stop working, they stop working. I know we've had discussions about the JDC and its future viability, but practically speaking, I don't see any way that even if the board voted that they wanted to repurpose that facility, I don't see how that could happen before 2023, because we've already, passed our 2021 budget. We're going to start work on our 2022 budget here in a few months. With the pandemic, there's no way I'm going to be able to do an analysis on the JDC in time for the 2022 budget. And so we will budget for a full year of juvenile services in 2022. And so you look at 2 years worth of usage out of cameras at the very least. Just from a financial perspective, it just becomes, I think, a lot easier to swallow. So I've got Ken on the call. I've got Dustin on the call. Do you have any questions or concerns about using these funds for JDC cameras? Again, this has been passed through our consultant, and they're okay with it.
I just one thing, Derek, is Roy, what was the cost of that to do that project?
$95,000, roughly.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. The only thing I would ask is if any of the other entities have something else that they feel needs to be a part of this that might be better use of the money, or are we kind of down to let's get it done?
Yeah, and I was going to save that until the very end, but yes, we have reached out to the cities and the school districts repeatedly. We have reached out to our community partners repeatedly. I mean, they have had ample opportunity to make claim to this money, and we are at the very end of the process. Like, administratively, we cannot continue to just reach out over and over and over. Like, our backs are against the wall. And so at this point, this was part of our original allocation. I am comfortable spending it within the county, and frankly, we've given those other entities opportunities to take second bites of the apple, so to speak, and some of them have, but not all of them have, and so certainly feel comfortable with the opportunities that we've given our partners.
Great, thank you.
The next item, and this has already been purchased, frankly, and it's been discussed with you, but I'm just running through this. $76,000 for a new trailer for the health department. So we have been using the mobile command trailer from Emergency Management. Buying this trailer gives us a lot more flexibility, not only during this pandemic, but post-pandemic. We've envisioned taking it up to Wellsville to help administer flu vaccinations, for example, and years moving forward. And so that one you've already signed off on. I've got it listed as a separate project, but there were certain outfitting costs associated with the trailer, getting technology in there and other items. That's about $14,000. You have any questions or concerns about that?
This is Commissioner Dunn. What are they going to pull this trailer with? Some truck or what?
Yeah, we are. Nick, do you want to jump in and talk to him about that?
This is Nick, sorry. We have taken and purchased another vehicle, an EMS that can pull it. Emergency Management has the truck that they've got for their big trailer that's set aside that can pull it. And if both of those aren't available, I would assume that we could work with Public Works with the vehicles they have. So we have multiple different vehicles that can handle that trailer.
Okay, thanks.
All right, the next item on my list here is farm out costs. And so as all of you know, over the years, we've had to farm inmates out of our jail for various reasons, but normally it's when we're at capacity. What we have found is COVID has caused the court system to run especially slow, and so we have ended up housing inmates longer than we otherwise would. In some instances, this has led to us having to farm out more inmates than we otherwise would have. Additionally, with COVID-related concerns, we've had to space out more in the facility, which has also led to more farming out. That's about $50,000. This hasn't technically been approved by our consultant, but I believe very strongly that it will be. And certainly, I mean, there's a close tie to COVID. So do any of you have any questions about that expense? Okay, moving on. Our next item involves UV lights. So we found that ultraviolet light not only kills COVID-19, but it kills any number of viruses and bacteria. I if you have questions, I will turn this over to Nick, but basically we're going to order several machines that project UV light. Basically, it'll help our maintenance department, help our health department make sure that our workspaces are sanitized. And I mean, we've bought wands and sprayers. The problem with those, and they've been very good, that's been a great purchase. But when you think about like paperwork, so, I mean, we're through the election now, but all the ballots that Janet's office handled, you can't really spray those. And then we're going to go into tax season here with the treasurer's office. Having this equipment will allow us to effectively sanitize paperwork without having to spray it with a chemical disinfectant. And those various pieces of equipment cost about $35,000. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, our next expense, which we talked about back on the 5th, is improved firewall. I was talking to Dustin here before the meeting. Firewall is basically, you think about a protective fence around a house. That is what firewall is for like our servers and our technology here at the county. This will basically, as much as we're now relying on meeting via technology, it really amplifies the importance of making sure that we're doing so securely. And so improved firewall would be about $31,000. Do you have any concerns about that? Okay, the next item is a cot for one of our ambulances. As we have continued to transport more patients with COVID-19, Nick has identified a need for an improved cot in one of his trucks, and that is about $16,000. Do you have any questions about that? Okay, my next item. Oh, did somebody say something?
This is Commissioner Dunn. I just wonder what is involved in this cot.
Nick, do you want to jump in?
I'm fine with jumping in. Thank you. If you remember, we purchased the power cots about 10 years ago, but we didn't have the funding to purchase them for all the ambulances. So we still have one cot that has or truck that has a manual cot on it. With COVID, a lot of times we only have one of our technicians suit up and do a lot of things on their own. We've seen the need to go ahead and get that last truck outfitted with a power cot, which means one person can load that by themselves without having to expose their partner, first responders, or anybody else. So this cot's essentially a cot that one person can use to load and unload. It finishes off our fleet with them. And just a brief history, just 2 days ago, we had all 5 of our trucks out and 2 of them on COVID calls. So this allows that to happen.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Our next item here involves additional audio and video costs for our various conference rooms throughout the county. This was in our original plan, but we just underestimated it slightly. There's roughly $14,000 more of additional costs, and this will go into the 3 new conference rooms in our remodel, the commission chambers, and then the sheriff's conference room over in his facility. We're taking this opportunity to revamp our tech in each of those rooms because we anticipate continuing to meet remotely, well into 21. And so do you have any questions about those costs? Okay.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I do have one quick question. I was thinking about
Sure.
the district attorney's office, and are they doing a lot remotely? Do they have a good conference room? Or if they aren't doing remotely, should they be doing remotely?
Yeah, I don't have Brandon Jones on this call. I know that he, at the beginning of this, I reached out to all the elected officials and all the department heads and asked them to send me ideas, and he did send me a couple, and sure enough, they were both eligible and are being honored under this plan. Neither of them related directly to this kind of technology. I do think that the courts are holding session remotely, or at least they have at points throughout this. And I've never had Brandon complain about the tech that they're using, which leads me to believe that it must be sufficient. But I can certainly ask him that and make sure.
Thank you.
My next item here, $10,000. That is 2 new fridges for the health department. Both of our fridges in the health department are getting older, and we know that, as we start to get, we all are, I think, hoping that a COVID vaccination gets developed and starts being distributed soon. These fridges will obviously allow us to hold a supply of that vaccination. And certainly we want to make sure that the fridges are absolutely reliable, because I'm not a doctor or a epidemiologist, but my understanding is that vaccines, if they're not kept at the appropriate temperature, then they lose their effectiveness. So, any questions about those fridges?
This is Commissioner Dickinson. From the information that I've heard shows that vaccine needs to be kept at a really cold temperature. Will these fridges be freezer? I mean, can we get them that low if they need to be below freezing?
Nick, do you want to answer that?
Yes, sir. We have been able to purchase a large standing freezer because some of the vaccines do require to be frozen or very cold. So we purchased a refrigerator that is able to monitor the temperatures and get pretty cold. And then we also purchased a large standing medical freezer, which we didn't have, that can monitor. So we took care of that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Don, were you saying something?
He kind of cleared that, but I did hear the newer one they're coming out with now doesn't take near they just takes the regular refrigerator. But I do know that I had relatives that worked in a place where they had to keep those samples, and they had a refrigerator go down. It wasn't cheap, not the refrigerator, but what they lost. So I think it's a very good choice to update those refrigerators.
All right. Thanks, Don. We're getting towards the end here. I've got a couple $1,000s for remodel costs in order to install some of the aforementioned AV equipment. We recently learned that our contractor had to cut into the concrete floor over there to do it, and there was a couple $1,000 expense associated with that. Because it is directly tied to technology that will allow us to work remotely, those costs would be eligible. Do you have any questions about that? I've got a couple $1,000s of postage costs for the treasurer. She, I wish I had her on the call, but she had to do some increased mailings at certain points throughout this pandemic. So this is just designed to help reimburse her for those costs. Any questions about that? and I'm just bringing up the treasurer. I don't know that we discussed this. We are going to try to put new workstations down in motor vehicle that provide a more protective barrier between our motor vehicle clerks. And we're working with a vendor on that right now. That is about a $15,000 expense. But the tie to COVID is clearly it will provide a plexiglass barrier between our clerks. And we think it'll provide just a little more privacy. It'll be a better long-term solution for the motor vehicle office anyway. So any questions about that? And then the last listed item I have is just that I've got $5,000 here for miscellaneous tech. I've had several department request new iPads so that they can disseminate those and help their staff work a little bit better remotely. This was included in the original plan, but just wanted to bring it back before you. Is there any questions about that? Okay, and so each of those expenses, most of those have been approved by our consultant already. The ones that haven't, we will make sure that they approve. And if so, my intention is to just tell my staff to start moving quickly, because these funds have to be spent by the end of the year. And the total of all of those expenses is about $596,000. You'll note that I gave you whole numbers. I was rounding up, so the actual expense won't be quite that much, but that still leaves us conservatively $100,000, and in all likelihood closer to $150,000 under what our allotment was for Franklin County. And then that brings me to the radio towers, which we discussed this back on the 5th as well. We could add a repeater to each site, which, you know, we've got fantastic radio towers at this point, as we should. But this would basically eliminate any busy signals that we would get. So should there be a major event in, you know, a certain part of the county, and you've got a bunch of first responders down there, there are situations that arise where you can get busy signals. Adding the repeater could eliminate that. The cost of that is about $54,000 per site. You have already approved doing that at the Wellsville site, because that's that's a really busy area, highly populated area, or at least by our standards. And so that is a busy tower. I think we could probably do 2 more towers. And to be frank, I still think there's going to be money left on the table. But does the board have any issue with us adding a repeater to, say, 2 of the 3 remaining towers?
This is Commissioner Dickinson. I think in the back of my mind, I've always, and we've been incredibly lucky not to have any COVID cases in our jail, but I always, in my back of my mind, think we need to save money just in case, you know, we get a bad case there and we end up with huge medical bills. I understand we're toward the end and it's kind of use it or lose it. We just have to be understanding that if we use it, then if that does occur, hopefully, God willing, it does not, that those expenses would not be on us, because we would not have any COVID money to, or maybe there'll be more down the road, who knows? And that's all.
Yeah, and was that you, Colt?
Yeah. I really don't want to start the ball rolling as far as giving you a whole bunch of ideas or a bunch of ideas when you don't really have time to chase them down, but only thought would be, I'm thinking of a department like the appraisers, where their vehicles are kind of old, and sometimes they do drive two to a vehicle. Would it be possible to consider buying another vehicle so that the field people don't have to drive two to a vehicle? And then once this is over, would it be a good second use to get those replaced, since they are fairly older towards the end of their lives?
Yeah, I would have to talk to Jamie. I mean, that may be the only way we could tie this to COVID, would be, if there are enough vehicles right now that they don't have to drive two per vehicle, then I don't think we can establish a connection. And we may not be able to anyway, because of what we know about mask usage and its preventative effects. But I am happy to talk through that with our consultant and see and have a follow-up conversation with Jamie.
Okay.
And then to address your comments, Ian, I mean, we practically speaking, we are at the very end at this point. I mean, just the administrative work that goes into using these funds, I mean, it's enormous, and I don't see any way that we're I don't know that we're going to be able to use all of it. And this is not a Franklin County exclusive problem. I mean, you open up a web browser and you can find hundreds of articles about how communities are struggling to use all of these funds just because of the red tape associated with trying to do so. And so it's not unique to us. And I believe we're doing a better job than most at getting it done, but we're kind of just at the time where we've got to make these decisions. And if we do end up with a COVID case or something in the jail, like, we will have COVID money, even if it's not part of these remaining funds. Like, I am very confident that we won't have to resort to using ad valorem tax dollars to take care of that. We will have other funds available. And so I'm pretty comfortable with where we're at in terms of spending this, and I feel like practically we've held out about as long as we can. I know Commissioner Dunn reached out to a couple of our community partners. I am in the process of working with them yet on trying to, help them out, and I don't know if we're going to be able to find a valid use or not. But at this point, we're really not in a position where we can continue to take on additional requests from folks. And I feel like that needs to be said. I mean, from the get-go, this phase of the funding was designed to assist municipalities and school districts. And we created a program whereby we decided to help assist our community partners. And Lord knows our community partners have received a lot of correspondence from us. They've heard from Janet, they've heard from our consultant. In some cases, they've heard from me personally. They've had a lot of opportunities, and indeed, a lot of them took advantage of that. And so we've had private businesses reach out to us, but this funding was never, there's been so many different funding programs and phases of funding programs, most of which, or many of which, were designed to help the private business. This wasn't. And so, we weren't able to assist businesses with it because that's not what this funding was for. And our consultant is pretty adamant that we don't use it for that purpose. And so I feel like over the course of months, we have worked hard and thoroughly vetted this. and we're kind of at the end where, you know, we just need to make these decisions. And so, with all that being said, is there any concerns about any of the purchases that we discussed today? Because if you don't have concerns, then I'm going to get the thumbs up from our consultant, and I'm going to tell my team to start getting on it because we don't have a lot of time left. So, any concerns before we wrap this up?
This is Commissioner Dickinson, not a concern, but a statement. And I've said this to you several times individually, but I wanted to say it publicly that I am so thankful that we have a county commissioner or a administrator that is working on this, because if there's so many counties that don't have an administrator, and they're trying to, the commissioners are trying to wade through all of this on their own, and they are in dire straits. So I do appreciate you and your whole team working through this and figuring out how we can best spend these for our county.
Thanks, Ian. Roy, did you have a comment?
Yeah, Commissioner, I didn't know if you or Sheriff Richards talked about the cost of food, whether it's increased like it has in the stores for everybody else, or as food-related expenses due to the virus.
Yeah, I don't know that we discussed the cost of food specifically. I know we had an item in our original plan that related to our food service, and in discussing it with the sheriff, he elected to not move forward with it. And I'm quite sure Jeff's on the call. Jeff, are you seeing an increase in food costs?
Yes, where we saw the increase, we are locked in under contract to only have to pay so much per meal. So the actual food cost for it right now does not hit us. Where it did hit us is that the lower our inmate count is, and for the first few months of the pandemic, our inmate count was really low. But we have a minimum number of meals we have to purchase under the contract, and we had and the cost per meal is higher at the lower numbers. So for about 3 months or so, in there, maybe a little longer, 4 months, we did see an increase of what that would typically cost us, because it did cost us a lot more per meal. But now that's not an issue because we have an abundance of inmates, and so we get our meals at a lower rate, but we are buying more of them. So that's kind of where that's at. Where we will see the increase in what that food is costing our contract provider will probably be in the following years when they do increase our contract. And our contract it does increase a few percent each year, and I think that's where we'll see them make that up.
Okay, thanks.
All right, are there any other questions? Colt, are you still having trouble pulling up your cover sheets? I don't want to step on your toes, but I'm happy to call for the motion if you are still having difficulty.
I got it pulled up on my phone at some point. I would just say, though, I'd be happy to move forward with the plan that you, or the items you put in front of us. And I assume everyone else is, since nobody else has spoke up. Motion to the affirmative would be, I make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation for usage of the county's remaining CARES Act funds, and move to amend the direct aid spending plan accordingly. If somebody would care to make a motion to that effect.
Commissioner Dunn, I'll make that motion to approve.
It's Don, I'll second.
Thanks, Don.
Commissioner Dunn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Howard?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Waymire?
Yes. This brings us down to staff reports. Derek.
Yeah. One of the things, it's kind of related to our last item, but at some point here, when we get through this pandemic, I'm going to sit down with Janet and we'll have a long conversation just about basically where we're at financially and how this pandemic has affected us. I mean, I will tell you that so many, if not most of the projects that we are using this money on, I mean, certainly, I think we have rock solid ties to the pandemic. But I also think that over a long enough timeline, we are going to have to use tax dollars to do a lot of this. And now, you know, that we're not going to have to, I think that we'll be able to present some pretty creative options to the commissioners at budget time. And I don't know that we'll see it yet in the 2022 budget, because I still think we'll be battling this pandemic at that point. And I don't know that it would be wise for us to get super aggressive until this is completely behind us. But at this point in time, financially, the organization is healthy, and I do think it's going to lead to some pretty exciting possibilities down the road. And so, but we will have those discussions, and certainly the five of you will make the decisions that guide us. But it's been a bleak year, but I do think, we'll have exciting opportunities in the future. I say it every week, you know what I'm going to say, but we continue our COVID response. Our deaths jumped from 8 to 13, which, I mean, that's absolutely awful. This is, we're trying to, everything we're doing is trying to prevent the spread of this, and of course, death is the worst possible outcome. And so, it's hard. It's hard for us to see our numbers jump like that, and it's, I don't know, it's hard to stay up right now because you see the number of positive cases and how it's continuing to grow exponentially. We're watching our deaths, continue to grow, but we will continue to fight through this. We will continue to, spread what we believe works, stress the importance of mask usage, stress the importance of social distancing, stress the importance of good hand hygiene. Certainly been meeting with the team frequently as these numbers have continued to increase. We've done a pretty good job throughout this pandemic of pushing information out on our social media pages, but I think we're going to start doubling down and doing more of that. I think we've got Dr. Bud teed up to be on COFO tomorrow to discuss some of the things that he's seeing and his recommendations, and certainly have ideas for Casey as well in terms of things that we can get posted so that we're trying to reach as many folks as possible. And the calls that we're getting, we're starting to see an uptick in those again, and there's no longer any rhyme or reason to it. We still get a lot of calls from folks who are afraid that we're going to issue a mandate and, are scared to death that that's going to cripple the local economy and or violate their rights. Been getting a lot of calls from folks who are urging us to issue a mask mandate because they believe that it is the only way to stop the spread of this. And so, we're not prepared to recommend doing anything different at this juncture. I'm sure all of you know this, but I'll just state it publicly. We can continue to acknowledge the governor's mask mandate, and we continue to highly, highly recommend the usage of masks, and that is where we're at this point in time. So unless you have questions for me about that, I will turn it over to Nick.
As Commissioner Dunn, Eric,
Yes.
I've been getting a lot of emails about this also, so I think probably all the commissioners have. So I appreciate Dr. Ransom and our team on their recommendations. That's all.
Thank you, Roy.
All right, well, I'll make this as quick as possible, but Derek hit on the big things as mask usage. We are inundated with positive cases. Currently, just to what I have right now, we have 231 current active cases. We're testing in the ballpark of 85 to 100 with Ransom or Advent, OFP, and the health department. That's significantly more tests than we've been doing throughout this whole pandemic. And we're seeing a lot more symptomatic individuals. If you remember back in June, July, we didn't have a lot of symptomatic individuals. A lot of them were asymptomatic. These, as we move inside, as we are going through this, we're seeing more symptoms. The biggest concern is, if you look at November, we're up to 265 total positive cases that are reported to us. We've tested about 1,200 or 1,227. Our positivity rate is 21%. October, to give you a perspective, for the whole month of October, we had 211 cases. We tested 1,630 with a positivity rate of 12. And that was concerning. So we're up almost 10% in our positivity rate. We're red, which means nursing facilities are having to do testing on those residents twice a week. And that's a lot for somebody to be tested. So we're going the wrong way, and we're going the wrong way rapidly. We've got citizens that choose to not wear masks. We've got businesses that don't feel they can keep people out, and it's not a good path. So if you are, when we work through this, one of the things that we've been very successful at is contact tracing. One of the things we've been good at is being able to follow up with people. We're losing ground on that, and it's not just us. You look at Douglas County. Douglas County has turned all of their contact tracing over to the state, which, with us doing it in-house, we can usually contact trace and get a hold of people within a day or two of somebody testing positive. The state's 5 to 6 days out, and then the communication from that is very lax. So we have seen the state getting overwhelmed. What we were seeing turnaround times on our tests we send to KDHE of 36 to 48 hours, we're now seeing up to 3 to 4 days before we're getting results back. So this is being seen in our labs. This is being seen in a lot of places. Violation of quarantine orders. We see a number of people that come in and get tested and go back to work. So we really need to turn this around, get people to realize the severity of this. As Derek talked about, we have 13 deaths related to COVID. We are seeing it start to slow down, and in our nursing facility that had an outbreak where we were seeing 10 to 12 to 15 positives a day, we're seeing 1 to 2. So that's starting to go the right direction. We're seeing hospitals in the metro area turning people down. We're seeing people who have heart attacks, strokes, daily medical conditions having to be transported farther to get care because the hospitals are getting inundated with positive cases. So not trying to paint a real negative picture here, but but it's getting serious, and we're looking at right now 3 active cases in Advent in Ottawa, and we're now on a hospital closure list with Mark, so the EMS hourly can find out who's continuing to take patients and who's not. So we're gonna if we continue to see the climb we're at, I think by December we're gonna have a more serious issue going on. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. It seemed like we talked months ago about that soon we might have a test that we could do in our facilities, and we still have not got to that point. Is that still not a viability or something that we can look forward to? How did we get to this point and not have that available to us?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked. So I will tell you, 3 months ago, I signed a contract with a company called Abbott. Abbott is the premier testing for COVID. It would have allowed us to do rapid PCR testing. Since OFP had signed the same contract, and we were continually told next week. Earlier this week, with conversations with Janet, Derek, and I about the funding, I reached out to Abbott and finally put them on the spot, asking them to give me a hard, fast date. And at that point, I was told that indefinitely they were not signing new contracts because the amount of contracts they had, they couldn't fulfill. Which pushed us to look at different testing options. PCR testing is the premier test. If we could get rapid PCR in our community, we'd be doing great, but they're not available. So we have secured antigen testing that's similar to what is being done at Ottawa Family Physicians, but it does give us a test that we can use. I'm being told a couple weeks out from getting that, but with the reallocation of a lot of the rapid tests going to your nursing facilities, larger correctional facilities, it's tough to get them no matter who you are. So I'm continuing to battle through that. I'm continuing to try to get it. I'm glad OFP does have the ability to do rapids, and we do have the ability to send people to them. So our testing is good. It's just, we're trying to get that rapid, and that's been a problem.
All right, any other questions for Nick?
This is Roy. Nick, I heard that some places just have given up on doing contact tracing, because it's just so many of them. Have you heard that? Hello?
I hear you, Roy. Nick?
Oh.
Well, I don't know what happened to Nick, and he's free to jump back in, but that is absolutely correct, Roy. Some of our larger municipalities and greater metropolitan areas, they literally can't keep up with it anymore. And that is a discussion that I have with Nick periodically, just to see where we're at on this. And at this point in time, we're still able to do it. Though, we see a bunch of gatherings over the holidays here. It's not hard to fathom a circumstance where we're in that situation in this community. And so, yes, that is happening. We're not at that point yet, but we could easily get here in the next 4 or 6 weeks. So we'll continue to monitor that.
Okay, thanks, Derek.
All right. Nick, are you back on? I didn't think so. Let's go down to Casey.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I just have a quick thing I wanted to discuss with you. So Sari and I have had lots of discussions over the entire pandemic about employee appreciation. We have a lot of employees that are working really hard. I mean, everybody's working really hard. There's also some that are working COVID that are working long hours, and we haven't had any opportunities to do any type of employee appreciation events this year due to COVID, and we don't foresee any near future events where we are able to get employees together due to COVID. So we wanted to come up with something that we can show some appreciation to employees. We have a budget for this. And one thing that we have discussed and think would be a great idea is to get some Franklin County swag, giving employees the opportunity to choose either a t-shirt or a long sleeve t-shirt that the county purchases for them, has the new logo on it, and just to say thank you for all you've done this year. We know it's been a tough year, et cetera. So that's kind of our initial plan and thought. Like I said, it falls within our employee appreciation budget. We are sourcing them locally from Front Row Sports. And approximately the t-shirts are $5 and long sleeve shirts are $8. Depending on size, that goes up just a couple of dollars. But I wanted to know Commissioner's thoughts on that. And then also, along with the discussion, we want to maybe open up the opportunity for employees to purchase other Franklin County items on their own dime if they so choose, looking at options like quarter zips or jackets or cardigans, things that they can wear in the office that could be embroidered with the Franklin County logo because we've done the branding and have a new logo. So I'm interested to hear Commissioner's thoughts on this.
This is Don Casey. It sounds like a good idea to me. Under the circumstances, I think the employees would enjoy it, and it's something we can do and not worry about COVID. And doing that, plus that, it helps support a local downtown business in the process.
Absolutely.
This is Colt. I agree with everything Don said.
This is
Roy,
Ian.
Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
All right.
This is
like that.
Ian. Every time I see Roy wear his Franklin County shirt, I'm like, oh, I want one. So I think I would be interested in on my own dime getting something like that also. So yeah, I think that'd be great to do for. I mean, you know, we give them cookies, but this is something that'd be long term, and I like the idea.
Do any of you have any preferences on other Franklin County swag? I know I mentioned like a quarter zip or a jacket. I think, Ian, you're talking about Roy has like a button-down shirt. Is that something that you would be interested in?
Possibly.
We already do
You know,
that. Already do
Roy,
that.
Let's go with Don.
Do we already do hats, Casey?
I'm sorry, did you ask about hats?
Yeah, do we already do hats?
We have not done hats to my knowledge in the past, but that's certainly something we can look into.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Roy?
We had the button-down shirts and a polo shirt. We had both opportunities.
Do you prefer one to the other, Roy?
Oh, I do. Yes, I like the polos.
Okay.
I'd say, I know a lot of our guys that work outdoors get a lot more value out of workwear as opposed to maybe some dressier things. They've definitely said that. Now, obviously, a Carhartt jacket's a lot more expensive than a polo shirt, so that would have to be dealt with. But I've definitely heard from those guys that I know they sure liked that Carhartt jacket we gave.
Jeff Welton.
Jeff
Yeah,
Welton, yeah.
yeah. But anyways, I'm sure there's limitations to that. Ian, did you have anything?
Yeah, I was going to say maybe you would give them an option of, so me, I don't wear t-shirts, but, an option of a hat or a t-shirt instead of just across the board, the same thing. And as far as like the jackets, I think that would have to be done on a department level. I know that David Lee has talked about that through the years to be able to provide more for his people. But this is a start. This gives them an option and just tell them other things are available. And as far as the other, probably, either the polo or the button down, that kind of a shirt I would use much more than a t-shirt personally.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Derek. I think we're talking about two separate things. So I think what we would like to do with our employee appreciation budget is on the county's dime, give employees the opportunity to order either a short sleeve or a long sleeve t-shirt, whereby the county would pay 100% of the costs associated with that. And certainly we understand that, different folks will find different utilities in t-shirts, but it's really hard to provide a lot of options to employees and still keep us within our budget. But so that is what we would like to do for employee appreciation. But what we're also talking about is, and that's where I think these ideas that you've all have discussed have been fantastic, is we're just trying to create a menu of apparel that employees are able to order on their own dime. And we've talked to HR, we could probably even do some payroll deductions to do it. But that is where I see having options like hats, button-down shirts, polos, jackets of various types. I think that is where we can more easily provide them options. So how does the board feel about those two distinct options?
This is Don. That's basically what I was thinking too. Make the t-shirts something we do, but see if we can't open the door for other people a price. Maybe we can get a better price by making a Franklin County project.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Absolutely.
yes, I think that's 100% for all of that.
All right, I think everybody's in favor.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just to make note also, I've worked with Front Row in the past on hospital apparel, and if, an employee has a certain jacket, like a Carhartt jacket that they love, we can also get that embroidered for them. So that's an option too in the future.
Great. Sounds great.
And that's really all I have. So thank you for the discussion.
All right. I like the idea of setting up kind of a menu like that, I think too, if we want to do something special for employees, we could maybe put some money towards that and, give everybody a little bit like a credit, or, and two, if we got a department that's done something extraordinary, you could even do a special run or something for those folks too. So give us some options down the road to appreciate people. So, all right, Jeff, Sheriff Richards, are you on?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Go ahead.
Just a few things to kind of piggyback a little bit on what Derek was talking about with the farm outs. We do currently have 18 farmed out. Most of those we have tied back, we can relate to COVID. Not all of our farm outs this year have been COVID related, but the numbers that were provided to you this morning for that relief fund, that only counts those inmates that are farmed out directly related to COVID. So we did divide those out, and so you do have an accurate representation there. And I just wanted you to be aware of that. Our current inmate count is up in the mid 80s, which does, require us to have people farmed out as well. Along the lines of the jail, as you know, one of our plans through our strategic plan is to develop and the training and professionalism of our staff. And to that end, last Friday, we had 2 more corrections officers that graduated from the Kansas Jail Training Academy. And those were corrections officers Sheldon Schultz and Jacob Donovan. And we're proud of their accomplishments. And that keeps us on track, continuing to work towards that goal of having all of our jail staff to attend that training academy. So again, we're proud of them for their accomplishments. And then, as we've talked before, but we have one of our canines that was at the end of his working life. And, so I wanted to let all of you know that we now have a new German Shepherd named Duke, who has successfully gone through all of the training. He's fully certified and able to go out and work on the streets now. And so the replacement is there. We'll be working on getting the retirement done for Quanto, who was with us for several years and was a great dog and an asset for us. And we'll be working on his retirement since his replacement is up and running now. So other than that, if any of you have questions for me, I will happy to answer.
Well, I don't hear any. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Derek. Before we transition on, for whatever it's worth, I do want to acknowledge, I think the sheriff is doing an incredible job with the jail specifically. I will tell you, employee satisfaction, most of you know I'm pretty close to one of the employees that works in that facility, and I'm not sure employee satisfaction has ever been higher, and that is directly attributed to good management, and that reflects very well on Sheriff Richards. So, yeah, I think he's doing a great job there in the jail, and that's all I have.
All right. David Lee.
Good morning, Commissioners. So with the good weather that we've had this October and November here, we've been able to make quite a bit of progress on our asphalt overlay and patching work. Kilo has completed overlay work in 4 subdivisions. Those 4 subdivisions the roads were in pretty bad shape, and the work that they have done recently we shouldn't have to do a whole lot with those roads for the next 10 years or so. The patching on Rock Creek Road from Highway 59 to Rantoul has been completed. They've also completed the work on Tennessee from K68 to Peoria, and Vermont Road north of Rantoul. Right now they're working down in the southeast part of the county around Lane. And then they will be, if weather permits, they'll be working their way north to catch Labette and Sand Creek eventually. We do have 2 roads that are scheduled to be overlaid. That's Labette Road from the city limits to Montana Road, and then Montana Road from Labette or I-35 up to Marshall. That's where KDOT is rebuilding the bridge. KDOT has realigned Labette to be moved to a different location slightly, and we are waiting on them to create that road before we overlay. So that work may bleed over into 2021, but I remain hopeful that we'll be able to get it done this year, but we'll see. We're kind of dependent on the KDOT schedule at this point. Also wanted to update you on the Southern Star Pipeline project in relation to how that project has affected our county roads. Minnesota Limited, the contractor associated with that project, they have, per an agreement with us that we spoke with them a few months ago, they have begun milling out sections of the asphalt roads that were damaged during their construction, and they are continuing that work. So they've finished Finney Road east of Highway 59. They have overlaid that, I think, with about 8 inches of asphalt. So those roads that they take care of will be in really good shape going forward. And so they will continue that work until they're done here. They have been kind enough to, the material that they mill out, that has been delivered to various places for the county to use, along with what seems like hundreds of loads of dirt and native stone and large rock that they have used on their project. We have stockpiled that across from the landfill, and we will be able to utilize that material for quite some time going forward. So that's been a good relationship. They have worked with us very well, and all of this material is coming at no cost to the county, which is great. The last thing here, Commissioner Waymire asked about bridges on what is now Old 59 north of Ottawa a few weeks ago. I found out from KDOT that they will be turning those bridges over to us here over sometime in the next few months. They indicated that this should have been done years ago, but they are, they are working through the process now. And I should be receiving a letter anytime detailing the process KDOT will use to turn those bridges over to us. So that is my update for this week, and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This Commissioner Dunn, on that project on Montana Road, going from the new I-35 bridge going north to
Yes,
Marshall. Is there any plans to go from the end of 15th Street to Marshall to I-35 to improve that section?
I would love to, but there is that is one of the areas that I cut out of the project simply because there are just not enough funds to go around at this time. But that you will likely see that next year on a capital improvement project list that we will be developing.
This is Commissioner
Dickinson. Go ahead.
No. You're finishing that one.
Oh, I was just saying that road's getting pretty bad, actually.
Right.
From the city limits out to the I-35.
Yes, sir. We have definitely more need than we have budget available.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Dickinson. That pothole in front of the Elizabeth Layton Center, I know we hit that on Monday, forgot to go around it and went through it, and it was a big jolt. So yeah, just don't forget that one.
We've got a couple of those. There's one on Shawnee that we need Kilo to get to as well. These are massive holes that need to be dug out and patched. Quite a big area. So those are definitely on the list, and hopefully will be taken care of over the next several days.
I know it's hard to think about capital project for next year when this one still, you're still in the middle of this one with Kilo. Any thought on getting that rolling so that when it does warm up in the spring, we're kind of at the top of the list?
Well, what I'm referring to as far as a capital improvement project list is more of a 5 to 10 year plan. Definitely looking at how we can spend the dollars that we have available to us. That is essentially already underway. I've mentioned the pavement management system that we've been working with LTAP on getting that prepared. I met with some folks just last week on that, and we're close to being able to present that to you. And I am already using that information to plan for the projects that have occurred this year, but also going forward. So there is definitely some thought being put into how do we best manage the resources that we have for the infrastructure needs that we have.
Yeah, seeing that pavement management plan and having that conversation is kind of what I was talking to.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to that. So.
Yes, I would expect to be able to present that mid to late December or possibly early January, but it's right around the corner.
Good. Any other questions for David? All right. Janet?
I don't have anything today, thank you.
All right. Commissioners' comments, board reports. I am.
I got a couple of weeks worth. Stay with me. First thing is, I know that our family plans have changed because of COVID for Thanksgiving. And we will no longer be getting together in a group like we usually do. My family has volunteered to help with the community Thanksgiving dinner, and it is not going to be a sit-down dinner. It is not going to be a COVID main event. It's going to be meals are provided in a takeout. So if your family has been impacted by COVID and you are in need of a Thanksgiving dinner, they're going to be doing them at the Ottawa Municipal Auditorium. And again, they will be to-go meals. I wanted to bring up, I know a lot of the people that I know are landlords or are renters who have had problems with being able to pay their rent. And the state a couple of weeks ago came up with a program where if you had a renter that couldn't pay all or part of their rent since April, that they could reimburse up to $5,000 of that rent. You can't have evicted them or be evicting them, but that information, I believe, is on the Franklin County website. So if that is you, or if you know somebody that could use that assistance, please pass that information along. A couple of weeks ago, I did go to a Flint Hills Trail Advisory Council meeting, my first one in Osawatomie, and we did walk a 3/4 mile. It's at the end of the Flint Hills Trail. The trail itself ended not quite into Osawatomie, so the city of Osawatomie raised the funds to extend it into the city limits of Osawatomie, and they are still working on the different phases of that trail. The next phase is over by Osage City, and it is going to be done by our own Killow Construction Company. They did the last phase around Pomona Lake, and the council was very pleased with the work that they did, so they are going to be working on this next phase. Also, a week ago, Friday, I went to a chamber coffee at Jensen Insurance Company that's located inside the RE/MAX, close to Walmart there. And any business that is starting now or is continuing to figure out ways to stay open, that's awesome, because so many of them are not being able to do that. Last Tuesday, I attended a Zoom meeting of the Chamber of Commerce monthly meeting. One of the things they have planned now for the Christmas parade and the mayor's lighting ceremony to all be on November 28th, which is also the small business Saturday, to encourage shopping at small businesses. COVID has affected so many of our businesses, especially downtown. So any way that we have to be able to just remember, as you are looking forward to your Christmas shopping, to maybe include them in your places where you are going to be shopping. So much, and then so much of our meeting was about COVID. So many of the things that they usually do throughout the year they were not able to do, which is affecting their budget for next year. So that is going to be a hard conversation that they have before the end of the year to figure out how they're going to be able to sustain their programs. The city of Ottawa, I did listen to their study session on Monday. They have a new director at ORC, the Ottawa Recreation Commission. He shared with them some of his vision for the program moving forward. And they are going to discuss as a Ottawa City Commission on Wednesday, possibly how they can encourage the public to wear masks. I know we're all getting tired of it, and some of us are getting lax as far as wearing our mask, but the numbers are going up substantially, and it's more important than ever before that we continue to remain vigilant so that we don't have to become more dire circumstances. There are 10 new properties that we have that our neighborhood revitalization committee were presented. And on Monday, when we were at the voter canvas, I happened to talk to Jamie, and we were discussing those revitalization properties, and he said it's not just those. he said, our county is seeing a surge in remodeling and new building like he has never seen before in his years as an appraiser. So, I mean, that is awesome as far as the county is concerned, that we continue to, even through COVID, we are working to increase our numbers of and our values. We did have the voter canvas on Monday, and I just kudos to that whole department. The way that we went through, I think we had a little around 400 provisional ballots that we had to go through, as well as the voting itself, and they did a great job of throughout the voting process of keeping people safe and making sure that everyone had a chance to vote. And then I am just going to COVID. And if anybody knows me, if I say COVID, usually I say damn COVID, because that is just how I feel about this whole thing. I still hear people say that COVID doesn't exist. It's not that bad. I can't agree with that. My sister-in-law just lost both of her parents in the last 30 days from COVID. The numbers are increasing in Franklin County. The fact that we've lost 13 of our citizens to COVID is just, to me, heartbreaking. And I just wanted to share about one person that we lost this last weekend to COVID. As a county commissioner, sometimes I think that probably we feel like a lot of people don't know or care about the decisions that we made. Well, Joe Ferguson did care. Before we were meeting remotely, he was often at our meetings. Sometimes he had a public comment. Sometimes he just was there to listen. I've talked to him several times on the phone in the last couple of years, and he had lots of good ideas about making the county better. And it is sad that we lose somebody like that. Joe Ferguson cared about his county. He cared about his family. He cared about his Lord. And I just say rest in peace, Joe Ferguson. And that's it.
All right, Dawn?
I really have only attended. It wasn't a county function, but we hadn't had a park club meeting for, since last June, I think, when we canceled for this year. And we had a distance meeting the other night, spread out pretty good. And we're already looking and working forward. We're looking forward to bigger and better things next year. We've already started movement on planning for next year's car show, and hopefully getting this back to normal again. So that's all I got this time.
Thanks, Don. Roy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks to Janet and her team making the canvas go so smoothly and quickly. Really appreciated that this go around. I had a ECAN annual meeting, virtual annual meeting, and we just went over some of the core values of ECAN and the vision for the next 5 years and the mission of ECAN. And that's all I have.
All right. Rick, are you on?
Yeah, I didn't have anything. I had a Prairie Paws Zoom meeting scheduled. They had canceled that. My other board, of course, is the tourism, and that's been put on hold since this all started, so I haven't had those. So I don't really have anything
All
this
right.
time.
Our next meeting will be next Wednesday. So, other than that, if anybody has anything they need to add, speak up, or we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Howard, I'll make a motion.
All right,
I'll
thank
second
you.
it.
Perfect. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.